The old pub erupts in drunken screams and laughter as patrons drink ale, play darts, and watch football on the flat-screen television above the bar. David sits alone on a hard wooden stool at the bar. He can already see Jasmine in his mind's eye. Blonde hair, blue eyes, short skirt, walking out of her apartment with wafts of wild vanilla and a few fun quips like all those black and white films his mother used to watch alone in the kitchen. She's everything like the movies, everything his father admires in a woman, and more, and she's certainly a perfect date for the old man's retirement party in the coming days, sure to turn heads and make him proud. David gulps his evening ale, winces at the bitterness, and thumps the pint against the metal countertop, still feeling the tightness around his neck and shoulders. He figures he needs a little more social lubricant to make this first date go off without a hitch. The last thing he wants is to screw things up before the party. David scans the bar and gestures to his old friend Rick. He slides his empty glass, nods for a refill, and suddenly feels a sharp pain at his left side. Rick returns with a foamy golden pint dripping on the sides as David snatches it from him, takes a sip, and winces. Tastes bitter, and he knows it ain't supposed to be this bitter. He waves Rick over and leans forward. This shit is killing my insides, and it tastes like someone farted in a bathtub of donkey piss. You pulling this shit out of an engine? Or is it real? It's real, Dave. As real as it gets. It tastes like poison. Well, why don't you stop punishing yourself? David's left side pulls again. He struggles to remember if the appendix is on the left side or the right side. He isn't sure. Doesn't matter. Everything hurts in his stomach and chest, and he figures he's better off with a ruptured appendix anyway. Some poisons are good for you. Rick shakes his head in disagreement. I take it easy anyway, unless you want to be a total shit with what's-her-name. Jasmine. A drunk fan approaches David.
Look here, as I live and breathe, David fucking King. Why not come and have a seat with us?
Ignoring him, David looks up at the football match. I just want to be alone right now. Another time.
Come on. Won't you take a few seconds for a fan?
David locks eyes with Rick, but doesn't look at the drunk brute at his side. I appreciate the invitation, but I'm kind of going through a rough patch. That's why I'm alone. So please. The drunken fan jabs him in the shoulder.
I gotta ask, what did that referee call you that upset you so much?
You have shit in your ears? Get away! The fan jabs David again. David catches the finger, snaps it against the joint, and takes another sip of donkey piss as the agonized fan falls to his knees, screaming bloody murder. Rick quickly gestures to a giant of a man who escorts the drunken fan and his entourage out the door before all hell breaks loose. Then he shakes his head at David. One day you're gonna pick a fight with the wrong guy. I told him I wanted to be alone. There was probably a better way to tell him, unless that was about something else. I broke his finger. Nothing more to make of it. Rick's eyebrows furrow. Come to think of it, you never did tell me. Tell you what? What happened with the ref? David shrugs and shakes his head. He said the wrong thing at the wrong time, and I lost my shit. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I can see how much it doesn't matter. David sighs at the sarcasm, and he feels Rick's eyes on him as he takes a swig, then swallows it all down. Like I said, doesn't matter. Ah, secrets. What depths lie beneath the surface, Mr. King? What depths indeed. I've known you 16 years now, and you're still a closed book. You'll tell me, eventually. Rick grabs his empty glass and walks away. David feels his lips and tongue growing heavier and heavier with every pint. He continues to brag about his new white shirt. his new cologne, and his new friend Jasmine. He tells Rick about how he met her at a fountain, where a famous photographer was taking her picture, and everyone stopped to spectate and take in her beauty. He searches Rick's face for signs of approval, but gets the sense that he's just nodding to be nice. You should have seen her. Every guy was staring at her. She was in this bikini, and the summer sun was blazing down on her. Every guy was staring at her, and she was staring at me. You said that part a few times now. Did I? Yeah. Starting to sound more like convincing than bragging. David frowns and stares into space for a long moment. Then he puts his hands into his pocket and feels the hard tape holding an old note together. I ain't trying to convince you of anything. I didn't say you were trying to convince me. Who then? Well, that's the question, isn't it? I don't understand. What's the question? Stop talking like that. Dave, why don't you stop talking like that? You come in my pub talking about supermodels and exploits you could sell to a smutty magazine, and you're good at it too. And if I didn't know you, I'd buy it. David winces and turns away. So here you are talking about how happy you are while you're frowning and breaking fingers, and ready to take down the first one who talks to you wrong. And you're probably the only one getting in your own goddamn way. You don't jab people in the arm. You just don't do that. You can believe you're happy if you want to. But from where I'm standing, you're the most miserable bastard in Manchester, and I care too much about you to let you think you've got me fooled. There you go, trying to psychoanalyze me again. Probably going to link me to some obscure historical idiot nobody remembers that you read about in one of your dumb books. Rick shakes his head. There you go, making light of something serious when a friend just wants to know if you're okay. There you go, being melodramatic when a friend just wants a drink. Dave, I'm sure she's a nice girl, but you know what I say? Screw her. Don't go. Stand her up and do what you really want to do. Stop talking out your ass. Rick leans closer to him. I'm serious, Dave. Serious as the note you keep in your pocket. You know, the one you read every now and then when you think no one's watching. David leans away from him. Mind your fucking business. Touch a nerve, did I? David drains the pint, wipes his mouth, and staggers off the stool. I'm fine! And he pushes his way through drunken patrons and the thick wooden entrance doors, losing his balance and stumbling into the cool, indifferent summer night. David senses someone following him as he hobbles past the alley beside the pub. He turns to see the disgruntled Fan and his entourage of idiots. They yell and joke and bark curses at him. It's all a jumble of words to him, but he gets the tone and the general intention. The Fan approaches him with a crooked finger.
You should be thankful people remember you at all, you pathetic excuse of a human. The only reason they remember you is because you pissed your career away in a single flush.
David feels the blood boil up his neck and doesn't even realize he's unleashing a flurry of punches until it's too late. He stops to wipe the blood off his fist as an idiot tackles him into the dark alley. Another idiot charges him with a scream and smashes him into a brick wall. David kicks off the wall and pushes them both into a dumpster. He whirls to punch another idiot who instantly hits the ground with a thud. Several others attack him. He stands his ground and dishes out pain and soaks up punishment until they collapse. David looms over them, impressed by his strength, when suddenly someone kicks him in the back. He topples over as he feels an arm wrap around his neck, choking him like a boa constrictor. Through blurry vision, he watches the idiots take turns punching and kicking him in the gut and face. The boa releases David, and he collapses in the gutter with 2 tennis balls for eyes, a bleeding nose, and a tooth he feels slipping down his throat. He crawls out of the alley and onto the sidewalk, where people walk by him without taking much notice. Then he turns on his back and stares at the stars glimmering beyond a broken streetlight, grateful he didn't puke. Then again, he was never one to puke. Not when he drinks. Not before a game. Not even before a family gathering. David barely sees the legs of pedestrians walking around him. He hears them whispering, talking, laughing, and growing silent as they approach him. Once or twice he heard whispers about seeing if he needed help, but the whispers soon faded, and in the end, no one helped him. He didn't want help anyway. He stares at the blurring and fading stars and wonders what his life would have been like if he had just been like his parents. Then it dawns on him. He doesn't even know what that means. He doesn't know who they are. He knows aspects of them, the status, the facade, the bullshit, but not the real them, not the secrets and affairs and addictions. As David stares at the darkness above, he hears a woman tell her husband they should really do something about the poor beaten man bleeding on the sidewalk. He sees their blurry shadows looming over him as they stare at him with concern. He hears a few more whispers, and then they move on with their hurried lives. Through the mist in his mind, he remembers a story of how someone died of a heart attack at a stadium because not one person stopped to see if the crumpled man on the ground clutching his phone for dear life was okay. One phone call would have saved his life. Rick told him that story a while back. He can't remember when or why, but he had many useless stories he collected from friends and clients that he repurposed for small talk. David closes his eyes for a moment. He breathes deeply and takes in the floral notes of his cologne like soft petals drifting on the night breeze. He's glad his nose still works and that he's not having a heart attack, even though he feels as though someone kicked his heart out of his chest.